The dread of the control, international control and throughout the world, universal field marshal, no partial, who play the boy selection without objection.
Welcome back, vinyl community. You know what time it is. Reggae Spotlight. Today looking at the man called Michael Campbell. Mikey Dread. The Dread at the controls. A tune called Saturday Night Style. Off African Anthem Dubwise. Released 1979. It's the 2000s vinyl reissue on Mikey's own label. What's playing now, right now? Big Cat CD reissue, 1997, my original copy. This was also reissued 2004 on David Katz's Oralux label, expanded edition. This album was recorded at, or mixed at midnight, King Tubby's studio, mixed by Prince Jammy. It was an attempt to recreate on wax Mikey's radio show on the Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation station, JBC. The Dread at the Controls show. Mikey was born in 1954 in Jamaica, spent most of his childhood in Negril, developed an interest in electronics, any kind of electrical engineering at a very young age. Was also interested in music, got involved with various local sound systems. In high school he studied math and physics. Him and some friends set up a high school radio station. At one point as a prank he hijacked, it had a 5-mile broadcast radius. At one point as a prank he hijacked the frequency of the RJR official radio station of Jamaica, Radio Jamaica Rediffusion, hijacked their frequency, so as he said, rich people driving their kids to school within that radius would suddenly hear reggae coming over their radios. Reggae was not popular on the radio in those days. They preferred to play any kind of overseas music, country western, pop, soul, anything but reggae, which was seen as kind of undesirable. Not quite proper, but Mikey played it. Mikey loved it. As he graduated from high school, he went to Kingston to study electrical engineering at college. Ended up interning at, got refused for a job at RJR. Ended up at the competitor JBC, where he got an engineering internship. At 1976, by this point they were only broadcasting up until midnight every night. He convinced them to give him a graveyard slot radio show where he would play roots, reggae, dub. Because he was an electrical engineer, he was not permitted to speak on the air, so he crafted his Dread at the Controls show, mixing in jingles, pre-recorded bits of dialogue. As he had been doing his research in college, he had ended up getting in touch with many of the leading reggae figures of the day, so he was already well connected. He got even more well networked as time went on, but he would get various pre-release cuts from various producers to promote on his show, exclusive mixes. He would mix dubs on the air. It was raw roots reggae, which had never been heard to this extent in Jamaican radio. Ironically, at the high point of roots reggae. But the show was an underground sensation, hugely popular. Tapes of it circulated overseas as far as the UK, where it was influential. Ironically, his popularity proved to be a source of tension with others at the radio station who did not approve of the roots reggae content. He ended up leaving under acrimonious circumstances by the late 70s. Previous to this, he had been very heavily involved with, as I said, with networking with other artists. One particular person who he had a close relationship was King Tubby, the great dub engineer. Tubby was kind of a mentor to Mikey Dread. He had King Tubby also had an electronics repair business as well as being the greatest dub engineer, so him and Mikey had a bond over that. He taught Michael Campbell a lot of things. One day Michael was sitting in on a session King Tubby was doing for the producer Carlton Patterson for his Black and White label, and Tubby convinced Michael to voice his own song, which was a tune called Love the Dread, aka Mikey Dread, a bit of a shot at the JBC management in that tune, in that song, in a humorous way. Another tune that surfaced from those sessions was Barbara Saloon, kind of a free-flowing DJing tune. Michael as DJ or Jamaican rapper. He had kind of a relaxed, laid-back, yet energetic, and kind of humorous style. He kind of breaks into a giggle in the middle of this tune, and a dub on the flip here. Lego the Barber, King Tubby's version side. He also linked up with the great Lee Perry, Scratch, who was at a furious high point of creativity at his Black Ark studio, recorded a tune called Dread at the Controls, still credited to Michael Campbell, which appeared on Black Art label, as well as others. You can't see the title too well there, it's scratched out. Black Art, Lee Perry production, very early Michael Campbell tune with himself as artist. That tune I first heard on the Arcology box set, blew me away. I wish I could play that one for you, but it's the one tune that's going to get me blocked on YouTube. I once emailed Mikey, tell him how much I appreciated that tune, got a reply back from him. I kept that email in my inbox for years until it accidentally got deleted. As friction grew between Michael Campbell and JBC management, they eventually parted ways. For a time, Michael was working as an engineer at Treasure Isle Studio, released his debut album, which was released in Jamaica as Dread at the Controls, or sorry, Evolutionary Rockers rather. Appeared overseas as Dread at the Controls on the Trojan label. I've recently come into possession of 2 copies of this. I picked up this copy on the orange and white Trojan label, and then just as chance would have it, I walked into one of my local record stores and found an original copy on the blue Trojan label. So being enough of a Mikey Dread fan that I can't pass up the original, I now have 2. Plus, of course, the CD versions. Now that album showcased Michael as DJ with his vocal sides, with tunes like Love the Dread, Walk Rastafari Way, Everybody Needs a Proper Education. He would also have a parallel career as dub artist, releasing sets like At the Control dubwise. Here's the vinyl reissue on Michael's own label from the early 2000s. He would also begin, and also of course African Anthem. The African Anthem dub set is features more of his jingles and like I said, an attempt to recreate on wax the feel of his radio show. At the Control dubwise is a bit more muted, just the odd little jingle here and there. Michael's music's always been special to me. I'm not sure I can really explain why. He had a charisma, sense of energy, sense of humor that in those very serious roots reggae days, although he was 100% roots, that maybe some other artists didn't quite have. Just a sense of style and panache. As he began establishing himself as an artist in the late 70s, also began producing other artists. Released an LP with Junior Mervyn of Police and Thieves called Bad Man Posse. Here's the 12-inch single, original on Michael's own Dread at the Controls label that he set up for his own productions. The iconic lion logo there. 45 revolutions per minute, if you spin it. Junior Mervyn with Bad Man Posse. Also released an LP with Earl 16, Roots Singer, Reggae Sound, Dread at the Controls production. The Rockers Vibration compilation. These are all reissues from Michael's label, early 2000s. Fairly obscure artists on here, The Ovations, Michael Israel, Rod Taylor with his Imperial Majesty, one of Michael's hardest hitting rhythm tracks, and classic tunes. At this time he was working with the Roots Radix band, who were poised to be the absolute crack session band that everybody wanted on their records. With them he crafted the World War III album. Another absolutely prime, essential Michael Campbell album with him as vocalist. Various editions. This is the 2000s reissue on his own label. It's also a CD reissue with expanded track list that Mikey put out himself. And still keeping on with the various productions, he put out this is the 2 for CD of Rocker's Vibration with another one of his LPs in kind of a lover's rock style, SWALK. And extrapolating from the World War III album, he put out Master Showcase. This is a recent pickup, original. This is a one rhythm album, taking one of the rhythm tracks from the World War III album and presenting it in various versions, extended mixes. It's got the Roots Rada, it's got some hard-hitting dub cuts on here, as well as cuts by different artists. And of course, the Dread at the Controls iconic label. Pave the Way appeared in 1984 on the Heartbeat label in the US. By now, Mikey is moving away from the DJing into more of a straight singing style. Not the world's greatest singer, has a bit of a nasal tinge to his voice, but gets by on personality. Now, through his productions with other artists, he had begun, and of course tapes of his radio show, he had begun getting known overseas. Ended up working with The Clash on their tune Bank Robber, of course. Also did quite a bit of work with UB40. He narrated a documentary on reggae history called Deep Roots Music, which was produced out of the UK. Did the theme song for it called Roots and Culture. Did a reggae variety show called Rockers Road Show, as well as going back to his radio roots in various countries, hosting the odd radio program here and there. He was moving around quite a bit in the UK and Europe at this time. His recorded output began to slow down a bit. By his explanation, he was waiting for the rights to his music to come back to him, having already revolutionized radio in Jamaica by playing raw reggae and dub, as well as promoting dub overseas with his own LPs and his work with international artists of the caliber of The Clash. By the late 80s, he had moved back to the US. He was also furthering his education at this point in engineering and electronics. Began releasing some albums out of the US. Happy Family appeared, late 80s, I believe, on this one. This is on the Ras label out of America. No year on that. Yeah, 1989 on that one. African Anthem Revisited, 1991. I was picking up, these were all quite early pickups for me when I was first getting into reggae, so I've kind of got into that later phase of his career before I got into the earlier ones. Bestsellers. Profile, all early 90s. Obsession. Still remember finding this one in a used CD store called Charlie's, downtown Vancouver, Granville Street. Long gone. Used to be a huge store full of used CDs. Come to Mikey Dread's Dub Party. World Tour. One of his final releases, Rasta in Control. I think there was maybe one more album after that. In 2007, Mikey was diagnosed with a brain tumor, very serious, very aggressive. He had still been performing live up to this point, touring. He appeared in some television programs. I'll put links down below to some essential tunes, as well as anything else I can dig up. There's even some YouTube clips of his original radio show on JBC in the late 70s. Unfortunately, the brain tumor took his life in 2008. Sadly, great reggae pioneer, did a lot for the music. I'm going to leave you with Roots and Culture by the man called Michael Campbell, the Dread at the Control.
Now we comes our special request to each and every one. Especially those kind of children who forget where they're coming from, you know. This sound is called Roots and Culture. Skip, skip it, skip, skip it, skip it, skip it, skip it, skip it, skip, skip
Peace, vinyl community.